everyone, welcome back to our podcast where we make learning English fun and practical. I'm Edith, and today we have a special episode that I think you're going to love. We're talking about how you can use podcasts, just like this one, to supercharge your English learning. And with me, as always, is my co-host, August. How are you today, August?
Hi, Edith. I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about today's episode. Podcasts have become such a powerful tool for language learning, and we're going to dive deep into how our listeners can make the most of them. So make sure to stay with us until the end, because we've got a lot of tips, a grammar lesson, and 5 new vocabulary words that will help you on your English learning journey. And don't forget to leave your comments and reviews. We love hearing from you.
Let's jump right in, August. Why do you think podcasts are such an effective way to learn English?
Great question, Edith. One of the main reasons is that podcasts allow you to immerse yourself in the language. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing at home, you can listen to native speakers, pick up on natural intonation, and get a feel for the rhythm of the language. It's like having a private language tutor on demand.
Absolutely, August. And the best part is that podcasts come in all shapes and sizes, so you can choose topics that interest you, making learning more enjoyable. Speaking of which, let's introduce our first vocabulary word, immersion. Immersion refers to the deep involvement in an activity or environment, particularly one where you're surrounded by the language you're learning.
Great word, Edith. And immersion really is key to language learning. The more you expose yourself to English in real-world contexts, the better you'll become at understanding and using it. So, Edith, what's your favorite way to incorporate podcasts into your daily routine?
I love listening to podcasts during my morning routine. Whether I'm getting ready for the day or having breakfast, it's a perfect time to get in some language practice. And I think it's important to point out that you don't always have to understand every single word. The idea is to get used to the sounds and the flow of English. That brings us to our second vocabulary word, routine. Routine refers to a regular way of doing things in a particular order, often daily.
Exactly. Edith, consistency is key. By making podcasts a part of your daily routine, you're reinforcing what you've learned and gradually improving your listening skills. And speaking of improving skills, let's talk about active versus passive listening. Edith, could you explain the difference?
Sure, August. Active listening is when you listen with the intent to understand and engage with the content. For example, taking notes, pausing to look up words you don't know, or even repeating phrases out loud. On the other hand, passive listening is when you let the podcast play in the background while you're doing other things. Both have their benefits, but for language learning, I recommend focusing on active listening as much as possible. Let's introduce our third vocabulary word, engage. Engage means to actively participate or become involved in something.
Active listening really helps you engage with the material and retain what you're learning. A good tip is to choose podcasts that match your current level of English. If you're just starting out, look for podcasts designed for beginners. If you're more advanced, try podcasts meant for native speakers, and don't be afraid to challenge yourself.
Definitely, August. And to make things even more interactive, try summarizing what you've heard after each episode. This not only helps with comprehension, but also with speaking and writing skills. Which brings us to our fourth vocabulary word, summarize. Summarize means to give a brief statement of the main points of something.
Summarizing is a great way to reinforce what you've learned. Now, let's dive into our grammar lesson for today. Since we're talking about learning through listening, it's a good time to discuss reported speech. Reported speech is how we convey what someone else has said, and it's something you'll often hear in podcasts.
Good choice, August. In reported speech, the tense usually shifts back. For example, if the original speaker said, "I am learning English," in reported speech you'd say, "She said she was learning English." Let's practice with a few examples. Repeat after us.
One direct speech. I will travel to London next week. Reported speech. He said he would travel to London the following week. Two direct speech. I can help you with that. Reported speech. She said she could help me with that.
3. Direct speech. I'm studying English every day. Reported speech. He said he was studying English every day. For direct speech, we went to the movies last night. Reported speech. They said they had gone to the movies the night before.
Great job. Remember, when using reported speech, be mindful of shifting the tenses correctly. It's a subtle but important part of sounding natural in English.
Exactly, August. And as you listen to podcasts, try to pick out examples of reported speech. You'll start to notice how often it's used in everyday conversation. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about how you can choose the right podcast to help you on your English learning journey.
When selecting a podcast, think about what topics interest you. Whether it's technology, travel, business, or entertainment, there's a podcast out there for everyone. Also, consider the length of the episodes. Some people prefer shorter episodes they can listen to during a quick break, while others might enjoy longer episodes that dive deep into a topic.
That's great advice, August. And don't forget to explore different podcast formats. Some podcasts feature interviews, others tell stories, and some might even include language lessons within the episode. Mixing up the formats can keep things interesting and help you develop different aspects of your language skills.
Absolutely. And now for our final vocabulary word, format. Format refers to the way in which something is arranged or set out.
That's right, August. And remember, it's all about finding what works best for you. Before we finish, I want to encourage all our listeners to try something new this week. Find a podcast that's a little outside your comfort zone and give it a listen. Whether it's a different topic or a more challenging level, pushing yourself will help you grow.
That's a fantastic challenge, Edith. And we would love to hear about your experiences. Share in the comments what podcast you chose and what you learned from it. We'll feature some of your stories in our next episode.
And before we go, we have an exciting announcement. We're launching a monthly contest. Submit a short video or audio clip of you summarising a podcast episode in English. The best entry will be featured in our next podcast, and the winner will receive a special prize.
That's right, Edith. We can't wait to see your submissions. Don't forget to use the vocabulary and grammar tips we've discussed today in your entry. It's a great way to put what you've learned into practice.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope you found these tips, vocabulary words, and grammar lesson useful as you continue your English learning journey with podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and share this podcast with your friends. Your feedback means the world to us, so leave a review and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next.
Stay curious, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.